Have you ever stopped and wondered where evil actually comes from? I mean, where did it all begin? Well, today, we're going to dive into one of the most foundational stories ever told. It's the story of a war that didn't start on Earth, but in the heart of heaven itself. It's the story of how the universe's most perfect angel became its greatest enemy.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? How does that even happen? We're going to trace that whole journey from absolute perfection to all-out rebellion, from the light bearer to the adversary we call Satan. So let's start at the very beginning, way back before there was even a hint of darkness anywhere. Before the fall, there was only glory. And to really feel the weight of this tragedy, you first have to understand what was lost. Heaven was a realm of pure perfection, and right at the top of all the angels stood this being of just unbelievable light.
I mean, just think about this for a second. Lucifer, his name literally meant light bearer. He wasn't just some angel, he was dazzlingly beautiful, covered in precious stones. They say the music that came from him filled the heavens with harmony. He had the highest authority, second only to God, and his whole job was to protect the very order of the universe. He was the ultimate example of the Creator's love.
And the world he lived in? Wow. Perfect order, perfect love, perfect joy. The law that governed everything wasn't some list of restrictive rules. No, it was the very thing that guaranteed happiness and protected everyone from the idea of evil. Imagine a world where nobody knew what pain, or envy, or fear even was.
So, you've got this perfect being in this perfect place. How on earth did it all go so wrong? Well, the change didn't come from the outside. It started as a tiny, almost invisible shadow in the heart of Lucifer himself.
And here it is, the single thought that changed absolutely everything. One day, Lucifer looks at himself, at his own brilliance, his wisdom, and he just forgets who made him. And for the very first time, pride enters the universe with this one question, a question born from looking at his own glory instead of its source.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, but why didn't God just stop that thought right there? And this is where this huge concept comes in, free will. See, this wasn't just some minor detail, it was the engine driving this whole conflict. God saw what was happening in Lucifer's heart, but he had given every single angel the freedom to choose, because you can't force love, right? It has to be a choice.
And with that freedom, that single thought of pride was allowed to grow. So when God held a council to create a new world and new beings, that's us mankind, Lucifer wasn't included. And that pride, it soured into envy. He's thinking, hey, am I not the wisest here? And that envy hardened into a full-blown plot for rebellion. The idea took root in his heart. This glory is mine. Everyone should be worshiping me.
Lucifer's corruption didn't just stay inside his own head for long. He started this sneaky campaign, not with a big declaration of war, no, but with quiet whispers, designed to turn the other angels against their creator.
He'd go up to other angels, one by one, and just plant these little seeds of doubt. He'd suggest that maybe God wasn't totally fair, that his law wasn't for their protection but for their limitation. He promised them a new kind of freedom, a world where they could do whatever they wanted, completely twisting what true liberty even means.
And here you can really see the two sides of the argument laid out. On one side, you have the truth. God's law is protection, it's harmony, it's the only way to be truly free. But on the other side, you've got Lucifer's deceptive pitch. It's a limitation, it's a tool to keep you down, it's an unjust set of rules. He was basically trying to reframe paradise as a prison.
And here's the really shocking part. His whispers were dangerously effective. Can you even imagine the shockwaves in heaven as this was all unfolding? A full 1/3 of all the angels, beings who had only ever known love and truth, were actually deceived by his lies and chose to side with him. The perfect unity of heaven was completely shattered.
So, with a third of heaven's army behind him, Lucifer, now known as Satan, the adversary, he made his rebellion public. And for the very first time, war came to the kingdom of God.
The heavens themselves shook. It was this epic confrontation of light versus darkness. Archangel Michael led the faithful angels against Satan and his followers. The sources describe thunder and lightning and whirlwinds of heavenly energy just colliding with each other.
But here's what's so important to get. This was not a battle of just brute force. Michael's army fought with truth. With every move, they dismantled the lies and the doubts that Satan had been spreading. They were the living embodiment of God's plan. Satan's forces, on the other hand, fought with loud, angry shouts, spreading deception and demanding power they had no right to. It was truth systematically taking apart a rebellion.
And as he fought against the truth, something really dramatic happened to Satan himself. His inner corruption started to show on the outside. The radiant, majestic being he once was began to change. His light just faded. His majesty melted away. By the end, they say his wings had turned black, a perfect reflection of the anger and hatred that had totally consumed his heart.
Well, the battle reached its inevitable conclusion. Lies just can't stand up against absolute truth. The war in heaven was over, and a final judgment was about to be passed. A voice echoed throughout the entire universe. God, with what the sources describe as real pain in his heart, declared that heaven was no place for evil and disorder. Satan and all the angels who followed him were cast out, falling from the highest peaks of glory.
And after they were gone, how much rebellion was left in heaven? 0. Not a single trace. Zilch. Once again, perfect peace, order, and harmony were back. The wound was healed and the kingdom of God was pure again.
But the story doesn't end there, not by a long shot. He was defeated in heaven, sure, but he wasn't about to give up his rebellion. So Satan turned his attention to God's brand new creation, Earth. He snuck into this new world and used the exact same tactics, deception, on the first humans that had worked so well on the angels. And with that, he began a whole new chapter in his war against God.
Which leaves us with this final, really big thought. The battle in heaven was won, decisively. Heaven was restored to perfection. And yet, the conflict was allowed to continue on a new battleground, with all of humanity caught right in the middle. Why do you think that is? It's a question that really sets the stage for, well, for everything that follows.